She didn't whisper it. She didn't soften it. She shouted it for the entire internet to hear. "We're going to the bowl, baby." And with those 6 words, one Instagram story ignited a firestorm that nobody saw coming. Because the woman saying it isn't just any fan. She's the fiancée of Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Jake Browning. And the team she was celebrating wasn't his. This is not just a story about football. This is a story about loyalty, identity, roots, and what happens when personal history collides with professional heartbreak on the biggest stage in sports. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why this moment hit such a nerve across the NFL world, why it matters far more than a single post on social media, and why it may say more about the modern NFL than any press conference ever could. The Seattle Seahawks had just pulled off a dramatic 31-27 victory over the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC Championship game. It was one of those games that feels like it belongs in NFL lore instantly. Momentum swings, late-game tension, and a stadium that felt like it might lift off its foundation. As the final seconds ticked away and Seattle officially punched its ticket to Super Bowl 60, the celebration exploded. Players cried. Fans screamed. History was made. And somewhere in that chaos, Stephanie Niles made a decision that would turn heads across the league. She posted a glimpse from the game, soaking in the moment, and wrote, "We're going to the bowl, baby." No qualifiers. No explanations. Just raw, unfiltered joy. For Seahawks fans, it was relatable. For Bengals fans, it was confusing. For NFL fans everywhere, it was fascinating. Because Stephanie Niles isn't just Jake Browning's fiancée. She's also a woman with deep roots in Seattle, and those roots run deeper than a quarterback depth chart. Not long after that first post, as reactions started pouring in, Niles followed up with another Instagram story. This one was quieter, almost reflective. She shared an old picture from 2014 and wrote, "Back to my roots for now. LOL me in 2014. It was playful, but it was also revealing. This wasn't a betrayal. This was a homecoming. Stephanie Niles grew up in the Seattle suburb of Hunts Point. This wasn't a casual connection. This was childhood. This was community. This was the team she watched before she ever met Jake Browning, before the NFL entered her life in such an intimate way." According to People magazine, Seattle wasn't just a stop along the way. It was foundational. She attended the University of Washington in Seattle, where she pursued accounting and information systems. That detail matters because it ties her even closer to the Seahawks culture. The University of Washington isn't just a school in Seattle. It's part of the city's sports heartbeat. Saturdays in the fall, purple and gold everywhere, the echoes of future NFL dreams filling the air. And one of those dreams belonged to Jake Browning. Jake Browning and Stephanie Niles started dating in 2018. They are both alumni of the University of Washington. Their story didn't begin in the NFL spotlight. It began in familiar hallways, shared memories, and a campus that shaped them both. That shared background is what makes this moment so layered. Fast forward to the present, and the Seahawks are headed to Super Bowl 60. They'll face the New England Patriots on February 8th in Santa Clara, California. It will be Seattle's first Super Bowl appearance since 2015 and their 4th overall. For Seahawks fans, it's a return to glory. For Stephanie Niles, it's personal. Meanwhile, on the other side of the emotional spectrum, Jake Browning's season ended quietly, painfully, and far too early. The Cincinnati Bengals were eliminated from playoff contention on December 14th, when they suffered a brutal 24-0 loss to the Baltimore Ravens in Week 15. No drama. No last-second heroics. Just a shutout that slammed the door on their season. For Browning, it was the final chapter in a year that began with unexpected opportunity and ended with uncertainty. Go back to Week 2 of the 2025 NFL season. Joe Burrow goes down in the second quarter against the Jacksonville Jaguars with a turf toe injury. The stadium goes silent. The Bengals' season feels like it's about to unravel. Enter Jake Browning. Thrown into the fire, Browning helped lead a comeback victory. The Bengals won 31-27. It wasn't just a win. It was a statement. The locker room believed. The fans believed. And for a brief moment, it looked like Browning's career might be turning a corner. After that win, Cincinnati made Browning their starting quarterback while Burrow recovered. This was his shot. The opportunity every backup quarterback waits for, sometimes their entire career. The pressure was immense, but so was the potential reward. Then came Week 3, and the storyline couldn't have been scripted any better or worse. Browning faced his old team, the Minnesota Vikings. This was supposed to be a narrative game. Redemption. Validation. Proof that he belonged. But football doesn't care about narratives. Week 3 didn't go as planned. Neither did Week 4. Or Week 5. The performances didn't match expectations. The flashes of promise from Week 2 faded under the harsh light of weekly NFL scrutiny. In this league, patience is a luxury few teams can afford. On October 7th, the Bengals made a move that said everything without saying a word. They traded a 2026 fifth-round pick to their division rival, the Cleveland Browns, for Joe Flacco and a 2026 sixth-round pick. It was a bold move, a controversial move, and a clear signal. The very next day, Joe Flacco was named the Bengals' new starting quarterback. Jake Browning returned to the backup role. Just like that, the dream was paused. Not ended, but put back on the shelf. Through all of this, Stephanie Niles was there, quietly supportive, watching the highs and lows that come with loving someone in the NFL. And that's what makes her Seahawks celebration resonate. It wasn't about choosing one over the other. It was about holding space for both. Her life hasn't followed a straight line. Stephanie Niles has had a global upbringing that adds even more context to who she is. She was born in Hong Kong, SAR. When she was 3 years old, her family moved to Shanghai, China. That kind of childhood shapes perspective. It teaches adaptability. It teaches you that identity can be layered, not singular. In 2005, Niles came to the United States. Seattle eventually became home. And home has a way of calling you back, especially in moments like this. In 2024, Jake Browning proposed to Stephanie Niles in Malibu. The setting was cinematic. The timing was perfect. When she announced the engagement on Instagram, her caption read, "Happily ever after," followed by ring emojis that practically jumped off the screen. It was joy, plain and simple. So when people question her loyalty now, it misses the point. This isn't about choosing the Seahawks over the Bengals. This is about a woman celebrating her roots while standing beside her future. And yet, the reaction online has been intense. Some fans see it as harmless. Others see it as controversial. That tension is exactly why this story matters. It highlights how the NFL isn't just a business or a game. It's a web of personal stories, emotional investments, and human moments that don't fit neatly into team colors. As the Seahawks prepare to face the Patriots on the biggest stage, and as Jake Browning enters another offseason filled with questions about his role, his future, and his next opportunity, this moment lingers. It reminds us that behind every helmet is a human being. And behind every player is a network of people with their own histories, loyalties, and dreams. Here's the question that defines this entire story. Was Stephanie Niles wrong to celebrate her hometown team's Super Bowl run so publicly, or was this simply an honest moment in a life that exists beyond the Bengals playbook? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was this harmless fandom, or did it cross an unspoken line in NFL culture? Hotspot NFL wants to hear from you, because this conversation is far from over. And here's where the story gets even deeper, because moments like this don't happen in a vacuum. They reveal cracks, truths, and uncomfortable realities about how we consume the NFL, how we expect players and their families to behave, and how quickly fans forget that this league is built on real lives, not just fantasy football lineups. When Stephanie Niles hit post on that Seahawks celebration, she probably didn't expect to become a talking point across NFL media circles. But that's the price of visibility in today's league. Every post is a statement, whether you intend it to be or not. And for someone connected to a quarterback whose season ended in frustration, timing suddenly becomes everything. Think about where Jake Browning was emotionally at that exact moment. His team was already eliminated. His brief run as a starter had ended weeks earlier. The Bengals had moved on to Joe Flacco without hesitation. For any quarterback, especially one who had waited years for his chance, that kind of reset hits hard. There's no press conference for that feeling. No stat sheet that explains it. It's just reality. Now contrast that with what Stephanie Niles was experiencing. Her hometown team, the team tied to her childhood, her college years, her sense of identity, was doing something special. The Seahawks weren't just winning games. They were rewriting a chapter of their franchise history by returning to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2015. That's nearly a decade of waiting for fans. That's generational for some households. And suddenly, she's standing at the intersection of two NFL realities. One defined by disappointment, the other defined by euphoria. This is where fans often struggle to separate expectation from humanity. There's an unspoken rule in sports culture that loyalty must be singular and absolute. If you're connected to a team, especially through a player, you're expected to live and die with that team alone. Anything else is seen as betrayal. But real life doesn't work that way. Stephanie Niles didn't grow up dreaming about the Bengals. She didn't spend cold Sundays in Cincinnati stadiums as a kid. Her memories are tied to Seattle, to the Pacific Northwest, to the Seahawks. Those memories don't disappear just because your partner signs an NFL contract somewhere else. And that's the part of this story that's forcing people to look in the mirror. Because if you were in her position, would you really erase your past fandom entirely? Or would you, just for a moment, allow yourself to feel joy when your roots come calling? The NFL loves narratives when they benefit the league. Underdog quarterbacks, comeback stories, redemption arcs. But it's far less comfortable when the narrative challenges the idea that players and their families should behave like brand extensions instead of people. Jake Browning knows this league is unforgiving. He's lived it. He went from backup to starter to backup again in the span of a month. One injury gave him hope. A few tough performances took it away. A trade sealed his fate. That's the NFL in its purest form. Ruthless, fast, and unemotional. Yet through all of that, his personal life moved forward. The engagement in Malibu wasn't a distraction. It was a grounding moment. A reminder that football isn't everything, even when it feels like it is. Stephanie Niles celebrating the Seahawks doesn't diminish her support for Jake Browning. If anything, it highlights the balance required to survive in this league. Because tying your entire identity to one NFL outcome is how people burn out emotionally. And let's talk about the Seahawks side of this story for a moment, because their journey to Super Bowl 60 is part of why this moment felt so explosive. This wasn't a dominant, wire-to-wire season. This was a grind. Close games. Doubters. A team many had written off earlier in the year. That NFC Championship win over the Rams wasn't just a victory. It was validation. For fans who had waited since 2015, that validation hit like a wave. And for someone like Niles, who had lived and breathed Seattle sports long before NFL headlines knew her name, that wave was impossible to resist. The timing also magnified everything. The Super Bowl is the ultimate spotlight. Every storyline gets amplified. Every comment gets dissected. Every post becomes content. If this had happened in Week 6, nobody would care. But this was the NFC Championship. This was history. And then there's the Patriots, a dynasty franchise. A familiar Super Bowl villain to many. The matchup alone carries weight. Seahawks versus Patriots brings back memories, emotions, and unresolved debates for fans on both sides. That context only adds fuel to the fire. Meanwhile, Browning's future remains one of the quiet subplots heading into the offseason. Is he content as a backup? Does he get another shot somewhere else? Does Cincinnati still view him as insurance? Or was the Flacco move a sign of permanent repositioning? These questions don't have answers yet, but they linger. And that's why this story resonates beyond gossip. It sits at the intersection of career uncertainty and personal authenticity. It forces a conversation about whether the NFL allows room for both. Some fans argue that public support should be unified, that anything else sends the wrong message. Others argue that authenticity matters more than optics. That hiding who you are to appease strangers isn't loyalty, it's performance. The truth probably lives somewhere in the middle. But one thing is clear. This moment exposed how thin the line is between fandom and expectation in professional sports. Stephanie Niles didn't insult the Bengals. She didn't mock Jake Browning. She didn't throw shade at Cincinnati. She celebrated a team that helped shape who she is. That nuance matters, even if social media doesn't always allow space for it.as Super Bowl 60 approaches. The noise will only grow louder. Every angle will be covered. Every storyline will be milked. And somewhere in that chaos, this moment will still echo as a reminder that football, for all its structure and branding, is still deeply personal. So as you watch the Seahawks take the field against the Patriots, and as you think about Jake Browning watching from afar, ask yourself this. Do we really want players and their families to be perfect symbols of team loyalty, or do we want them to be real? Because the NFL is at its best when it tells human stories, not when it flattens them. And that's why this isn't just a viral moment. It's a mirror.